Sean Strickland is a master of projection. He says that anybody who meets Chimaev won't like him and will think he's a cunt, but it feels like Strickland himself is the one that's usually in that situation. Does everybody who's met Strickland just love to be around him? I mean, how many times have him and his butt buddy Chris Curtis gone back and forth? How many fighters has Strickland had an issue with?
Chimaev is just a fucking cunt. I mean, I was here when he retired from COVID, bro. I was training with him. Like, he's just a fucking cunt. You know, it's like, if you knew, I always say there's guys, if you knew on a personal level you wouldn't like, Chimaev is one of those people if you knew you wouldn't like. You know, he'll come in here. There's a video of me, I always like, oh, you're so good. Like, I'm being sarcastic. Like, bro, like, you go and you fucking starch this one-on-one guy when there's like Edmund, there's like high-level UFC fighters, and you're picking the one-on-one fighter because like you think he's the same height as your opponent. No, you're picking him because you're a bitch, dude. Like, it's just, yeah, he's just like, no, he could fight, but like mentally, he's just a weak man. You know, he's just a weak man.
And to be honest with you, I don't even think Strickland is the worst guy or he's such a bad human, but it does feel like he projects a lot. He calls Khamzat a weak man mentally, but I think that's how Strickland feels about himself. I'm not one to call somebody who steps into an octagon to fight weak mentally, but I do think that's how Strickland feels about himself. The way he talks before fights, talking like he's going to put on the most violent showcase possible, and then going out there just to teep kick and jab for 5 rounds, just shows his mentality. His bark is a lot bigger than his bite. He has to make himself feel more intimidating than he thinks he is. He has a lot of self-doubt going into fights. I think a lot of fighters have that, even the great ones. GSP has openly talked about being nervous and self-doubt, but they don't project it onto others. Everything that Strickland said about Khamzat is how I think people view Strickland or how Strickland views himself. If Khamzat is weak mentally for going hard against a guy who's one-on-one in sparring, then what is Strickland for going hard against influencers? He can call Khamzat weak mentally all he wants, and I don't know how hard Khamzat goes in sparring, but if what Strickland is saying is true, at least Khamzat brings that same energy when it comes time to fight world-class fighters on the biggest stage. At least he brings full violence to guys like Whitaker and Usman as well. He doesn't beat up on guys in the gym just to cower when the real fight is happening. Strickland is the exact opposite of that. He's got plenty of energy against influencers, but none of that energy is shown when it comes time to fight the best fighters in the world. And that's why I think he's projecting when it comes to being weak mentally. I do think Strickland goes into a lot of his fights with not much confidence, and not to get too deep into it, but I think that could be because of his childhood. Drick has obviously struck a nerve when he brought it up, and I think the over-the-top antics before the fight, just to fight the complete opposite of that, can be explained by his childhood. Also, he said that he was there when Khamzat almost retired from COVID. And doesn't that show his perseverance, if anything? Doesn't that show how mentally strong he is? To think that your body won't allow you to fight anymore, but to still come back and be dominant against the best guys in the world? It also feels like Khamzat isn't hiding anything. You ask him about his intentions about why he fights, and he answers honestly about why he does this for the money. And although we know everybody's doing this for the money, Strickland's whole, I'm gonna bleed for you guys, I don't even care about the belt, but once he wins it and then loses it, he begs for a title and how he won't settle for anything else. People praise Strickland for being real, but I think it's just projection. He puts his feelings onto others to display an image of how he thinks he should be. He prides himself being unreal, then he should have been real with Khamzat when he was in the gym with him. I think Khamzat is secure in who he is. From what I've seen, it seems that he messes up some of the best fighters during sparring as well. I know him and Kaio are friends, but from everything I've heard, he would mess him up and submit him. According to Strickland, apparently, Khamzat is weak mentally, and that's why he only spars guys who aren't very good, just so he can go out there and ragdoll some of the best fighters in the world? That makes no sense to me. This is why I feel like Strickland is projecting. He himself goes extra hard on influencers and amateurs because he himself is mentally weak. Would he spar with the better guys the way he does with the influencers? I personally don't even have an issue with Strickland teaching some influencers a lesson, to be honest, especially if they were talking like they belong and they could mess up the fighters. Like if that one dude, that Wes Watson dude, wanted to spar Strickland, I would have zero issue if Strickland set out to teach him a lesson. But I think a lot of what Strickland has shown is that he can be mentally weak at times. I mean, his own coach went on air after his loss to Drickus just to talk about Strickland's fighting style. For something to go that far, you have to think that it was brought up in private before. That can't be the first time it was an issue, and the coach just decided to go public with it and basically bash his fighting style. But when your own coach thinks you fight too safe and with no urgency, then that says something about you. Eric Nicksick said he wasn't inspired by Strickland's performance. You know you're losing the fight and you just accept it anyways? Especially when you're screaming about how you're going to be involved in a bloodbath. I also love how Strickland in this video says that Chimaev picks guys who aren't very good so he can beat up on them when guys like Edmund Shabazian are available. I mean, come on, man. I don't think Khamzat is avoiding and scared of Edmund. I'm sure he could submit him many times, probably already has. I mean, just listen to that video again. Does it not sound like Strickland is talking about himself? If you talk about what makes a real man and what doesn't as much as Strickland does, then I'm convinced you're overcompensating for something. I don't know what that would be. It could be as simple as he himself doesn't think he's a real man and he has to constantly talk about it to convince himself. I think a lot of people are seeing through Strickland now as well. First, people loved Kobe Covington and the things he was saying, but at a point it became obvious how fake he was. Strickland came along and people latched on to him because they felt he was being real. But I think people are starting to see through that now. There will be a day when I think Strickland talks about why he says the things he does and ends up having kind of a personality shift. But for now, he's the master of projection, trying to put on a persona to be the type of person that he feels he has to be.